Hi, Dr. Jeremy Heyman, and this is video number 2 of 3 on skin health, sun exposure, and skin cancer. And today's video, I'm going to talk to you, give you a lot of information. I'm not going to go through anything too far in depth, so if you have any specific questions, if anything kind of sparks your interest, comment below, and I'd be happy to go into more detail with you. So what we're doing here today is we want to still maximize our health potential out in the sun while minimizing our risk for overexposing our skin to the sun. So sunscreens, very controversial. Are they healthy? Are they not? Are they detrimental? Do we need them? Do we not need them? How often? Lots of questions there. There are 3 different types of sunscreens. There's a classic sunscreen, which is technically also known as a chemical sunscreen. So that's a sunscreen that's composed of a variety of chemicals that once applied to the skin will help to absorb and dissipate UV radiation from the sun. That's the first type. Benefits to that is it does protect our skin from the sun for a period of time. The downsides is the chemicals themselves. So I know there's nothing cut and clear yet fully across the board in terms of these chemicals that are used in the classic sunscreens. Oxybenzone. So that's oxybenzone. That's a chemical specifically that's being studied more and more, showing that there may be some potential health detriments and also hormone disruption and that type of thing. So I say avoid that as much as possible. With my patient base, with my family and myself, I do prefer to avoid the classic chemical sunscreens as much as possible. The second type of sunscreen which I prefer is the mineral sunscreen, so zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, combined with some natural ingredients. That is the best type of sunscreen in my opinion, but using that type of sunscreen actually creates a situation where you have to be a little bit more diligent in terms of your sun protection and taking more active engaging steps in making sure that you're not overexposing yourself to the sun. So this type of sunscreen, which is the mineral type, actually once applied to the skin blocks UV protection from actually contacting your skin, so it's like a physical barrier. And that's why sometimes these types of mineral sunscreens, when you rub them in, they actually leave kind of like a white layer on your skin. That's actually a good thing. However, some people don't have a preference for that. So that's sort of a bit of a give or take in that situation. Then there's natural sunscreens. So natural sunscreen essentially is you go to somebody, they create a sunscreen for you, you create your own sunscreen. There's a lot of research out there on natural SPF potential ingredients and nutrients. What's been shown in some research, or most abundantly in research, have been compounds such as carrot seed oil, raspberry seed oil, coconut oil, shea butter. So those 4 specifically have been shown to promote some SPF protection in terms of the sun, but there needs to be further research there, and it's not a matter of creating your own sunscreen, going out for 8 hours, testing it out on the beach, and then realizing that you've severely burned your skin. It's sort of a test and trial type thing. So if you're going to create it, I'm going to put some information on my Facebook page about that as well. And then you can create it, test it out for 10 minutes, 15 minutes to see how your skin responds. Spray, sunscreen, I try and stay away from that as much as possible. That's a chemical classic sunscreen. And with the aerosol, with the particles being in the air, it's easily inhaled, and that can cause some detriment as far as the chemicals themselves. So controversial, but some of the research is starting to indicate that. Now, the other controversy with sunscreens, regardless of what type you're using, is vitamin D creation. So what type of potential do you have to create vitamin D if you go outside and spend the day outside, but you're totally lathered in sunscreen? The answer is very little. So that's why vitamin D supplementation is important. If you have questions about that, let me know. I can give you the ranges throughout the year in terms of what you should be supplementing with. But at the end of the day, it's a decision that, when you're out in the sun, there are some situations where the risk of a sunburn far outweighs the risk of losing a little bit of vitamin D. We don't want to be vitamin D deficient, but I think if you take an overall balanced approach to spending time in the sun, there's really not going to be a lot of issues in terms of falling deficient or becoming deficient in vitamin D. Now remember, these sunscreens for the most part protect us from UVB radiation, which causes sunburns, but which also is a type of radiation, UV radiation, that promotes vitamin D production. So it doesn't protect us mostly from UVA radiation. So if you want that and you're going to use a classic sunscreen, you need to go out and you need to look for broad spectrum sunscreen. But I'll talk a little bit more in another time about the natural ingredients and whether they protect us from both UVA and UVB. The answer is yes for the most part, but you want to look at that as well. So the other thing now that we want to talk about is how do we take the best balanced approach to spending time in the sun. So as we all know, UVB radiation is highest during the hours of 10 a.m. in the morning to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and before and after is sort of the max, the optimal time to get out to expose your skin to the sun so that you can actually potentiate the development and creation of vitamin D. Now, most of us prefer to be outside during the majority of the day if possible, or lunchtime, or just after lunchtime. So if you're going to be out in the sun during those times and not avoid being outside during 10 to 2 or 10 to 4, where the UV is highest, and by the way, that's UVB that's highest. UVA, like I said in my last video, is it's fairly high across the board most of the day, so we're exposed to it the majority of the time. So it's difficult to avoid it, but I'll give you a tip for that as well. Basically, we need to cover up. So yes, there's humidity to be concerned about, but why do we all need to go to the beach and expose as much of our skin to the sun for eight continuous hours? So wearing a t-shirt, wearing shorts, moderating your exposure of your skin to the sun is actually the best way to do it. Ultimately it's a decision, your decision whether you want to take the risk or not. But in my opinion, it's not worth, definitely not worth the risk. The other part as well is, moderating your exposure to the sun just in general. So when you're outside and you're at the beach, let's say for 6 hours, or let's say 8 hours, then what the evidence has actually shown is that if you're out in the sun for 15 minutes, which is about the time that you can start to risk the chance of a sunburn, and then you cover up or you get out of the sun, and then you repeat that again, maybe 15 or 20 minutes later. So you're in the sun for 15, out of the sun for 15, 20, back into the sun for 10, 15, 20, and back out again, repeat. Then that's actually better than being out in the sun, obviously, for straight, time or hours on end. So if you're actually just out in the sun for 15 minutes and back in again, it gives your body some time and your skin some time to recuperate to a degree, so you can get back out again, and there will be a lesser chance that you're actually going to come home with a sunburn at the end of the day. Now, specifically UVA rays, I'm in my office right now, like I said in my last video as well, and there's a beautiful window here with a beautiful view. I'm being exposed to UVA. So when you're in your car, you're being exposed to UVA as well. And so the best way to negate the negative impacts of UVA radiation, which you can learn more about in my other video, is to tint your windows. So you need some type of proper tint protection on your car windows and on your office windows, your home windows, ideally, if possible. But primarily, as you're driving your car, that's the best way to avoid the detriments of being overexposed to UVA radiation. Now, I haven't even gotten to the point where we're going to talk about how do we best protect our skin through active lifestyle and diet. And I think I'm going to leave that for another video, so I'm going to add one extra video in here, so we're going to do 4 altogether. So this next video I'm going to do is going to be specifically on antioxidants, and I'm going to show you what the research has shown in terms of oral antioxidants dosing through foods and through supplements, as well as through vegetables and other ways, and some topicals as well, and which specific antioxidants have shown the most benefit in terms of being able to be out in the sun longer, protecting your skin, remediating the detriments that your skin has endured because of overexposure to the sun. And it's actually really, really interesting. And so basically, the healthier you eat before you go out in the sun, the better chance that you're going to have better protection. And kind of just a bit of a little interesting thought here. Have there been times where you've been out in the sun for 8 hours, you come home and you're not sunburned? Other times you're out in the sun for 8 hours, same beach, same spot, same spot outdoors, and after 4 hours you come in, or after 1 hour you come in and you're extremely sunburned. So it's not coincidence. There can be something that plays an active role there in terms of your previous meals that you've eaten, the previous nutrients you've had or have missed, and there's really a really neat connection there. So we'll talk about antioxidants, controlling free radical damage, and providing the best optimal situation there to minimize your overexposure or risk of overexposure to the sun.